Hello, everyone, to episode 1 of the Jeshua Encounter, which is my podcast about people who have actually, in my opinion, real life met Jeshua, Jesus, Yeshua, whatever you call him. Also, Christ consciousness is another phrase that a lot of spiritual people use, but I like to refer to him as Jesus or Jeshua. It's one of the two. So I'm super excited to have Jen with us today, who's going to be telling us her personal encounter story with him. Before we do that, though, I'd like everybody, we're going to get kind of connected to him and get ourselves present. So everybody will just close your eyes. If you're listening, you can just follow along. And let's take in 3 deep breaths in through the nose and into the belly. Exhale out through the mouth, relax. Inhale in. Exhale out. And last time, inhale in. And exhale out. And just keeping your eyes closed just for a brief moment here. Only those that work for our highest and best are able to hear us, be around us, and help us. We are calling in Jeshua, Jesus, Yeshua, whatever anyone wants to call you. We are calling in the energy of Jesus, Christ consciousness, asking please for your assistance today in connecting us all with you. We ask that you come into our hearts and our lives and lead us where we're supposed to go together today with you, and just show up in the ways for us that is that special relationship that is between each one of us with you individually, as well as the collective, and also those that might not be able to connect to you fully. We ask that you show up in a way for them that is not scary and feels loving and safe. We just thank you for bringing us all together. Amen. All right. Beautiful. So my name is Tasha Renee, and I do a couple of different things. I am the founder of Sisterhood of Sacred Fire. Me and Jacqueline Faith are the world's 2 leading experts in sacred rage alchemy. So we mainly help women, but also men in turning their anger out of balance, repressed anger into sacred rage, so it can work for you instead of against you. So you can see all of our work at sisterhoodofsacredfire.com, and you can also find us on Instagram under the same name. I also own a company called Lavish ASMR, which is a in-person ASMR, gentle touch, super relaxing and therapeutic back scratching and hair play company. So those are the 2 things that I do. And I would love for Jen to introduce herself and tell us, Jen, what you do a little bit before you go into your story about Jeshua, and then how we can get in contact with you as well.
Sure. Well, first of all, here we go.
This has been happening. This happened in the beginning. We've never seen Zoom do this before, and it stopped doing it for quite a while. So we're like, oh, we're going to be fine. So it seems to stop on its own, but we're going to leave it, because if any of you have ever done Zoom, I can almost guarantee you've never seen this. So we're attesting this to the actual energy that is coming through for this podcast. And there it stopped as soon as I got done saying that. So we're just gonna, if that does happen, we're just not really gonna pay attention to it. We're just gonna keep moving on. We can hear Jen's audio perfectly. So this will be on Spotify, by the way. So
yes,
pretty wild that it's happening, but yes. All right, Jen.
First and foremost, if you hear any weird noises, I have my dog here, so she's scratching and making noises. So just so you know.
No problem.
First and foremost, I'm very grateful. Thank you so much for doing this. And I'm grateful for my friend who tagged me in one of your posts that you were talking about the chosen, and that I got to meet you in this way. By day, I'm a health and wellness consultant with Jenny Craig. I've been with Jenny Craig for 6 years, but I'm also I'm a certified life coach. I've been doing that for a long time. I've done a lot of things, but the one thing that I've been working on for a long time that I'm launching around March 15th is Mountain Lion Wellness. Most people can find me on Instagram at Midlife with Jenny. I do have a blog that is linked in my bio, and that blog actually has been it's a chronicle of the experiences that I've had since connecting to Jesus. And it's not religious by any means, it's more spiritual. because I just had an experience just recently with that side of it, and it was the most ugly energy for me personally. So I'm not saying anything about anybody else.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's where you can find me right now, Midlife with Jenny. And I do have a blog, so that's what I've been doing right now. But I'm launching something that I've been working on for a long time.
I love it. I'm so excited about what you're doing. That's incredible. That's amazing. And it's Midline, Midline.
No, midlife.
Midlife, Midlife. Okay, this is why we ask. Okay,
Yes.
so midlife.com.
It's midlife. Oh, what you talking about? My blog? Right now I use blogger.com.
Okay.
Midlife with actually it's Jennifer Siezter at blogspot.com.
Okay.
That's really what I've been doing, because the only reason why I'm doing that is because I've had to figure out my way, because I've been kind of all over the place on and off here. But I always come back to my love of aromatherapy and herbs and nutrition and oh my God, I can't think. A tarot. I'm a tarot reader.
Love that.
I've been doing that for years.
Yes.
So mountain lion wellness, and part of my encounter has to do with the mountain lion, and you'll know.
Okay, fantastic. So the reason why I kind of go into this, people are just like, who cares? You're talking about Jesus. But the thing is, I want people to see the connection, because there's Jesus is making a comeback. That's what I've been telling. It's been kind of like my thing I've been saying is he's making a comeback, and he's not just showing up to religious people. He's now showing up in big ways to people who are of the spiritual level. And my belief about that, the message I get from him about that, is that Jesus did not and does not like religion. And one of the reasons for that is because it's very structured. So it says, if you come in this particular group, in this church, these types of churches, you will get to have a relationship with Jesus. And Jesus is like, no, fuck that. No, I want everyone to have access to me. If you watch The Chosen, which I will talk about on every fucking episode, so get used to it, or get on the bandwagon, because the show is amazing. It is the story of Jesus, but there's these ways that they've done it that has connected to the hearts of not just religious people, but all involved. And so spiritual people, nothing against religious people, but spiritual people believe that everybody is one. So if you're going to connect, if you really want your message to get out, that's who you're going to start trying to connect to, because they're the people that say everybody can have a connection with him. Everybody is entitled to that. So while we will have religious people coming on telling of their religious stories, which is also not going to be judged, I do believe this is the reason why he is becoming so connected to not just religious people, and why spiritual people are now feeling more comfortable meeting him, because he's showing up in these other ways that are not religious, that are not the scary thing that they've all been taught to fear about in Jesus and judgment and all the things. So go watch The Chosen. You will love it. The show, they've done a couple episodes now, I think 4 episodes total, that were made into, basically they took the 2 episodes, made it into a movie to go into the theaters. And it's literally gone above like Marvel movies. Like this, it's no joke. So you can go to the app. They have an app. All full episodes are completely free. They have 3 seasons currently. They will be doing up to 7. Or you can go to their website, which is angel. I think it's angel.com. I think it's
angelstudios.com.
I think it's angel.com though.
Oh, okay.
I think it's literally, I'm gonna just briefly.
You're probably right.
Because I'm pretty sure, because I remember thinking, how did they get that? How did they get angel. How did you get that? They must have found it and bought it from someone. So I just sent it to you to see if that's what it was. And yeah. And then it comes up as it's literally www.angel.com. And that has all the free episodes as well. So yeah. Oh, I'm going to plug them on every single one, because it's just a beautiful thing. All right, Jen, let's hear your story, babe.
My story, it's 2 parts. So just to kind of give you a little bit of a context, I grew up in an interfaith household. My mother's side of the family is Jewish. My father, Protestant, who's now deceased. My stepfather, who my mother was with for 40 years, was Muslim. So I've lived in 5 states. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, New York State. So I was exposed to a lot of diversity, which I think is a gift, and I love that. the thing is that with all of these different paths and religions, there was nothing that was observed. So we had a Christmas tree with our presents wrapped in Hanukkah paper, and we had a menorah. And so, and I used to kind of make a joke with my grandparents, because I used to call them the holiday Jews, because the only time you ever knew that we were Jewish was during Passover. And I'm not making fun or being disrespectful, but that's truly, honestly, the only time anything ever. So I knew very little. And there, part of me felt very grateful for the freedom that I had to explore different paths. At the same time, I always felt lost, like I was kind of floating and not. I also was born into. I was born into addiction. I was born into codependency, abuse. That's my childhood. That's how I was raised. Married and divorced 3 times. Had similar relationships, abusive relationships. Um, and so what I initially was drawn to was a lot of earth-based spiritual paths because of a lot of different reasons. And I've had over the years friends, well-meaning friends, who wanted me to be saved by Jesus.
Hmm.
And a couple of times I was like, okay, I'll see how, I was very open-minded and very trusting. And what I came to find in these experiences, that it was very harsh, very punishing, fearful, and that God was punishing and very unforgiving. And so over the course of time, if somebody were to even say the word God or Jesus, I would cringe and I would just shut down. I wanted no part of it.
It was like a trauma
And
response.
correct.
Yeah.
I also tried, because when my parents divorced at the age I was 8, and like I said, I grew up with my mom, and I tried to follow Judaism because that's, I was like, well, okay, that's what I'm born into. And it didn't click. Like it wasn't clicking. I couldn't find where I quote fit in. I already felt like a misfit, the black sheep. And that was apparent because of the things that were said to me. And as I got older, I was made to believe that I was at my core ugly and black. And I'm not, when I say ugly, I'm not even talking about just physical. I'm talking about at the core of who I am, I'm black, because that's what I was repeatedly pretty much told. Here we go again.
I know.
Um, but so when it came to God, I got to the point where I felt that there's no way that God even would want to see me, hear from me, because I'm such a horrible human being, that I was so ashamed. I had carried so much shame and so much guilt, especially as my kids start. Now I have 2 kids, one from my first marriage, and my youngest from my second marriage. My oldest, um, okay, how do I want to put this? I can go in so many directions. This became more apparent as to how I couldn't connect. I couldn't connect to God, because when I could no longer deny that I was the parent of an adult child, or at the time, he was around 16, 17, when I could no longer deny that my child was an addict. And I will say this, for 16 plus years, I walked this journey with my son. And he has given permission. I've asked permission to share. Um, and so the guilt and the shame of all of the mistakes that I made repeatedly with like an unhealthy and toxic abusive relationships, I blamed myself. I believed that I was the cause of my son's addiction, that if I did A, B, or C, he wouldn't have become addicted. I myself, this year in June, I will be clean and sober for 20 years. Even though I went through all of that, I felt I should have known better. I should have taught better. This is the punishment that you get. And that's kind of the image that I had of God. And so I've been in and out of 12-step groups for years. Al-Anon, AA, Nar-Anon, you name it, Coda. And every single time, now, mind you, I did not work with a sponsor. I did not go through the 12 steps, because every single time that it came to the spiritual aspect of connecting to a higher power, that was the point in which I would leave.
Yeah.
And
Your body would shut down and say, nope.
Exactly. And for the longest time, I connected, and I still connect with, Mother Earth, the trees and nature, and not realizing that that's God. God is everywhere.
Yeah.
But I couldn't connect that right away. And then also with now knowing that my oldest was an addict, I threw my entire existence into trying to fix, save, and rescue my son. And I will say that I wouldn't, as a mother, as a parent, I would not wish that on my worst enemy. That is by far the most helpless experience as a human. And so another thing that they talk about is detachment and surrendering and letting go. And at the time, in the beginning, I didn't want to hear that, because to me, that felt like I was turning my back.
You were abandoning your son. You were rejecting him. Yeah.
My first encounter, so there's three parts. So my first encounter, I was a dog groomer. This was back when my son was around the age of 19. My first encounter wasn't with Jesus yet. I was a dog groomer at the time. I had come home. I don't know where everybody was. I was alone. And I was living in Pennsylvania at the time, and I happened to log into Facebook. And what came up on my feed was this image of an angel with a sword. And I had heard about angels. I really did not really kind of connect or read too much about them, but I was curious because it caught my eye. And then it was Archangel Michael, and I didn't never heard of him before. And so I decided to do some research, and what came up as soon as I read, I'm getting chill right now, who he was and what he represented, I immediately started hysterically crying. And because prior to seeing that on my Facebook feed, I was looking out the window. Here we go again.
While you're talking about Archangel Michael, the video is doing its thing. Yep.
I was looking out the window, and I didn't know who I was talking to. I was just talking. And I broke down, and I just started saying, I'm like, I can't do this anymore. Somebody please help me. And that's when I saw this image of this angel. And when I found out what he represented and who he was, my instincts was to start researching everything that is connected to Archangel Michael: plants, flowers, oils, you name it. And I created this video. I called it my prayer video. And I took all of the photos of my son from the time I brought him home to the present. And I created this video to the song from Sarah McLachlan, In the Arms of an Angel. And I put Archangel Michael's prayer on there. And every single day for months, in the morning and in the evening, I would put this video on, and I would just listen to it. And I would just pray that somebody help me save my son. So that was my first kind of experience, but I still was very disconnected. So fast forward to 2019. And I'm not going to go into all of the details, because on Instagram, I used to have another Instagram account, because I sat down one night, and these emotions surrounding being the mother of an adult child addict, I used Instagram kind of like an online journal of sorts. I didn't care if anybody read it. I just needed to get this out. And what it turned into, so almost 2 years, I just kept sharing and sharing and sharing my experiences. And the response that I started to receive was overwhelming. People were messaging me, even not just parents, but people whose parents were alcoholics or addicts. And,
Wow.
they kept asking me to keep writing. And so 2019, I was driving to work. Now, this is my first experience. I was driving to work and I was thinking of my son like I always did, praying for him. Like I didn't know what I was praying to or who I was praying to. And there's a group called, I'm sure you've heard the song, I Can Only Imagine. It's
Mhm.
by Mercy Me. But there's another song called Beautiful that I discovered. And every time I would hear it, I would send it out to my son. So I decided to play it that morning when I was driving to work. Now, this is in my car. I'm in my car driving and I'm listening to the song. And as I'm driving, all of a sudden in my peripheral vision, all of a sudden I start seeing it almost looked like a grid, like this golden light, this grid, but there's golden light, and what's surrounding this golden light was like this platinum colored glow. And all I see are three sets of feet, and I knew that they were men. It was bare feet, and they were kind of like slowly marching in unison. And I see the robes, and it was in like I kind of looked this way, and then I went to go look because I was coming to a red light, and I'm not kidding. I'm shaking as I'm telling this, is that right in front of my face. And if it was like a split second, Jesus's face right in front of my face.
I'm getting chills.
And I almost drove off the side of the road. I like seriously, because it's literally, and so I did. I kind of pulled off to the side of the road to take a breath. I'm like, what the fuck just happened? Like I
Yeah.
knew who it was.
Yeah. Wow.
And that was the moment when I understood what I hear, like you mentioned in the beginning, Christ consciousness. I got this feeling, this overwhelming feeling of love wash over me, but I didn't know what to do with it. I just kind of, I'm like, okay, one day I'll figure it out. And once again, I'll be honest, I mean, it has stayed with me ever since, and I kind of shoved it aside
Yeah,
again.
because it was, I mean, it was a one time, it was happening every day. It'd be something else, but one time you probably do go, okay, well, that was fucking weird and awesome. But what are you supposed to do with it? Right. So what do you do but push it aside? That makes sense.
Yes. And so, fast forward again to 2021. I'm not going to, because there's so many different details. But if I fast forward now, mind you, my son for almost 9 years traveled from state to state working for the Renaissance festivals. And when I would tell people that, their initial reaction was like, "Oh my God, that is so amazing and exciting." People don't realize the dark side of that kind of festival like living. He also worked before the Renaissance Fair, traveling circus.
Mm.
But he got out of that because the abuse that was going on there. My son he's an indigo child. He's a highly sensitive person. He's an empath, and he absorbs so much. And addiction, yeah, that's a whole nother thing. But anyway, so I wasn't witness to his everyday, like I didn't see the day-to-day addiction, but I would call him every day. He kept in contact with me. But the majority of the time at that time, he was high, drunk. There was a time where he was highly suicidal.
Mm.
And every day for 2 months, and this was a ritual of sorts that I had. I would speak to him during the day. I would text him throughout the day to make sure he was okay. But then every day before I even took my jacket off, I made tea. And I don't know where I thought of this, but now I understand, is that I would pull out his favorite book and I would call him and I would read to him until he either fell asleep on the phone or I knew that it was safe to get off the phone. I just wanted to make sure that he was going to stay and hang on for another day. So finally, um, I was living in my own place, my own apartment, and against my better judgment, I let him move in with me. And what resulted in that was horrible. But then that's when I started to see the addiction daily. Like I started to witness. Um, and so he's gone to detox and rehab 3 times. In 2021, it was the first time that he went into detox. And when he went into detox, my automatic response was to go back to Al-Anon. Like I was like, I didn't even think about it. I'm like, I have to do something because I was desperate.
Yeah.
And so that night I walked in, and the first thing I saw sitting there, they have this little bookmark, and it's called Just for Tonight. And basically, this little phrase was just for tonight, I will rest. I will close my eyes and rest. And, I don't remember everything, but before the meeting even started, I burst into hysterics. I
Mm.
had to catch my breath. And so for almost a year, I stayed in Al-Anon. I worked with a sponsor and I started working the 12 steps. I didn't go through the entire 12 steps. Um, but I was working with her, and I'll never forget, she said something to me because surrender and detachment started coming up again. But what this time, what I started to develop was some kind of spirituality. I was connecting to a higher power. I still didn't know what that was,
Yep.
but I just kept coming back. So I was on the phone with her, and she says, "You have to understand, addiction is far greater than you are, but God is far greater than addiction."
Yes.
And I had never heard that before. And so I said, well, if that's the case and God is much stronger and greater than addiction, then how do you explain overdoses? How do you explain the deaths that come with addiction? And what she said, sometimes the addiction is so strong that God needs to bring his children home because they are in too much pain. And that's where I totally and completely understood surrender and acceptance. I came to a place, not that I liked it, that there could be a true, honest, real possibility that my son is going to die. And so I just kept I just kind of let that sit. And I had to surrender. I had to let go. I had to cut him off, meaning I had to block him. I'm not going to go into that. I wanted to share if so. That was the first time he went to rehab. He did it. He went and he got out. Didn't take him much to go back to active addiction. He relapsed, went back. This last time, presently, almost 10 months ago, because he is now put into 2 days from now, he will be 10 months clean and sober.
Yeah. Awesome. It's amazing.
And last summer, he asked me, he was still moving through rehab. He called me up and he goes, Mom, he's like, the guys at the house, he's like, they started going to church. He's like, will you come to church with me? Because Montel Jordan is going to be the guest speaker. He's the guy that sings the song, This Is How We Do It. If you remember that song,
Yep.
he was speaking with his wife. So I said, sure, because I didn't think twice about it because I wanted to support him in every way possible. Um, and so I went, and I was kind of hesitant, but I left, I kept an open mind and an open heart. And what I walked into, I never expected. I walked in, they have this, I guess, this Christian rock band, their band, and they are a contemporary Christian church. And there was a song. Now, music is everything to me.
Me too.
I connect to angels, I connect to God, I connect to Jesus through music.
Me too.
And the song that they sang is a song that was written by the woman who was singing it. So they just released their brand new album this year. I forgot, what day it was, but they were singing it, and that vision that I shared with you about his face and the three, um, I can only describe, for the very first time in my whole life, I realized that God was always with me, that I'm not a horrible human being, that that Jesus was always with me, was always with my son. And that love that I can't describe it. I'm like, the only way to describe it is that it came inside my whole system. And I just knew, I was like, I want to know you better. I want to understand. And everything from the past fell away. And I just stayed with that energy, that, and so for months I was just like, and so I decided that I was going to now Impact Church in Arizona, in Scottsdale, Arizona, that's the church. It's about 40 minutes from my house. And at the time, I lost my vehicle. That's another story. But they live stream their services on every Sunday. So the situation that I was presently in at the moment, last year, throughout the last 10 months, I was in a very bad, very dark, very black place for a lot of reasons. And it's connected to my path, the choices that I made in trying to save and rescue my son. So I don't blame my son. I take ownership of those choices that I made. But I had to flood my ears with something positive. I needed to hear, and the way the pastor of that church presents Jesus and God is the polar opposite. It's about love, and it's not about that you're going to be damned to hell forever. Like, that's not what he talks about. So before all of this, in between all of this, I was connecting to Mary Magdalene.
Wow.
Like, I was connecting to her all this time, and through like Megan Watterson wrote the book, Mary Magdalene Revealed. I bought her Divine Feminine Oracle deck, and I started working with that, and I listened to, see, here we are.
Of course.
And so in my day job, there was this elderly lady. I wouldn't say, she would kill me if I said that. She just turned 80, but she's a pastor. I didn't know that initially. And so we just started talking. And then when I found out that she was a pastor, I asked her a question. And I said, I wrote a paper in college about Lilith.
Mm.
And I said, when I did this paper, which I got A++++, that was used in future classes, I said, why do I get the feeling that Lilith is the same as Mary Magdalene, but it's a different culture, it's a different path, but because both of the stories are so very similar. She says, I highly recommend that you go watch The Chosen. Have you ever heard of it?
I was gonna say, have you seen The Chosen? Because that's exactly what happens.
Yes. And so it took me several weeks. Every week that I saw her, every 2 weeks that I saw her, did you watch The Chosen? Did you watch The Chosen? And finally, I sat down, and even with all 3 seasons, I mean, there's 2 scenes, but the one scene, I've watched it on repeat, and every time I watch it,
I'm getting chills.
I break down in hysterics. The season 1, episode 1, when Mary meets Jesus, and he says, I know you by name.
Yes.
That scene when she hugs him and he hugs her back. Like, again, I don't know how to describe it. And then if you move forward in The Chosen, the story about Veronica.
Yes.
That's how I felt my whole life. And for the first time in my life, I don't feel like an outcast. And I understand now, like I understand what unconditional love is, because I talk a lot about my story with my oldest, but my youngest, which I'm very protective of, my youngest, who now just turned 27, is transgender.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
And so my experience that I had recently, I joined this group because when you're excited about something and you discover, you want to share, you want to try to find your people, you want to find community. And the first thing I hear is trashing of the LGBTQA plus community.
Mm.
And all of a sudden, I just started feeling sick to my stomach. And I'm like, no, this is why back so many years that I didn't want to connect with God and I didn't want to connect with Jesus. And it's no. So when I saw that episode with Veronica, I just feel that the message, who Jesus is, he's love. He's love.
Yes.
There's nothing no one can say or do that makes you inhuman or makes you less than, because he accepts you as is. And I know that I'm not even doing this justice, and it's brought me gratitude, and it makes me want, Dallas Jenkins, I think, is an angel here on earth. And I think that the way in which he is presenting Jesus and his story is his humanness, and
Yes.
he's so relatable.
Yes. They've made
It's
him, Dallas is obviously the creator, one of the creators,
yes,
directors, all the things. Yes, and he's been questioned by religious communities. He's been called blasphemy. He's been called the devil. He's been like, I follow their page on Facebook, and he makes fun of it. It's fucking hilarious to me because they very much are religious. But I am telling you, I'm a psychic, and I'm telling you that he is psychically channeling Jesus. Like, I know that Jesus is telling him, put this in, put that in, make me, I can feel it in every bone of my body. He will probably never admit it, or he doesn't realize it even, possibly. But that is what's happening, is he is channeling Jesus, because Jesus is like, I am done being seen in this way where people are afraid of me. It is time. And the thing is, this could have happened, before, years and years and years ago. The planet needs this. There's so much darkness and so much shit that is happening on the planet right now. And what is needed, as we all know, is love. And Jesus is the literal epitome of the word love. That's what he is. So,
and
yeah.
when
Go
you
ahead.
say that, a lot of times love, unconditional love, is not a Hallmark movie.
No, it's tough love too, for sure. Most
Yes,
definitely. It's what's for your highest and best. Yes.
because one thing I love that Dallas has done to, and the actor who is portraying Jonathan Rumi,
It was
oh my
amazing.
God.
He's totally
Uh,
channeling Jesus. Anybody could have been played. You think Jesus didn't have a hand, literal hand, in fucking choosing who was going to portray him to become this mega fucking star that everybody would be feeling him through? No way. Yeah.
oh,
So
absolutely.
beautiful.
And what it shows is that, and you can see it in episodes of The Chosen, where Jesus has boundaries. It's that Jesus
Yes.
becomes angry, like you were
Yes.
talking, your work that you do, but he channels his anger. It's not in a toxic way. Like in the episode with Veronica, he's kneeling down next to her and he's touching her, and one of the Pharisees is, Rabbi, but and he cuts him off and he's like, she is clean. Like
Yeah, the way the power that comes through his voice when he is fucking done, yeah,
yes,
is undeniable. Yeah, for
yes.
sure.
And that's
It's powerful.
boundaries.
Yes, he
Love
does.
is not about, it's about boundaries. It's not being a martyr, and it's not being a victim. It's not being like, it's amazing because I understand all of the different layers of love that there
Yes.
is, and it's not what's portrayed in movie. And don't get me wrong, I love a good like romantic movie, but but
But it's not the truth. That's definitely not
right.
the truth. Yeah.
So yeah, that's like from the time I saw his face to, and I shared I've never publicly have shared that vision that I had. I kept it to myself.
Wow. I feel so honored that you shared that with all of us. Oh my gosh. That's
Yeah, because
beautiful,
I
Jen.
thought that
Thank
people
you.
would think I'm crazy, and because I read cards, and because all the things, and that's another thing. The experience I had just recently is that all of those things are being deemed, the devil's work, and that it's evil. And then I started, listen, like I was listening, I was being observant. And I said, and I'm not, before I say anything, I'm not disrespecting. I have respect for people, whatever their faith or their religion
Sure.
or their path is. What I don't respect is when it harms other people.
Yes.
Like the hate that comes out. But like the word, I am a lover of words. And so I kept hearing the word occult. I was like, what is the origin of that word? Where does it come from? Where does it stem from? I would highly recommend that people research that, because it's not what we've been believe it to be defined as,
Yep.
because it's not what people think it is. And then I was like, okay, prophesizing, what's the difference between prophesizing and psychic ability?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Zero. Nothing. Yeah.
What's the difference between speaking in tongues and light language for those who
Nothing.
understand? Nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
Like,
They're totally safe.
but all I kept hearing is that all of these things that, I don't like to use the word New Age community. I wish there was a different word I could use. But spiritual, the spiritual community.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, 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 there's no difference. It's just, there's so much hypocrisy.
Yeah.
And I'm not here like, I'm like, oh, okay, you know what? When I removed myself from that scenario, it's as if something literally lifted physically out of my body, because while I was kind of, and it only took me less than a week, because like I said, when I discover something and I get excited, I want to share and I want to find my people, and that day that I removed myself from that experience is when I saw your post about the chosen. Someone replied to your post saying that, I wish I believed in Jesus. And then
Oh,
I
yeah.
saw your response.
That was
I'm like,
Rebecca. Yep.
yep. I'm like, these are my people. You are
Yeah.
my people. So
Yeah. It was beautiful that Rebecca had the courage to write that too. I love her. Rebecca's amazing. I don't know if she's going to see this or not, but if she is seeing this, I'm just reminding her this is another way that Jesus is trying to connect with you. The fact that the reason why one of the reasons why she did this whole podcast is because she made that statement. So Jesus again is this is what I told her. I said, well, Jesus believes in you. So even if you
yes.
don't believe in him, he believes in you and he will find a way. You just making that statement saying that you wish you did is what, the Bible talks about, which I believe in like 10% of the Bible.
Mustard seed.
Yeah, the mustard seed conversation, which is, have you seen season 3?
Yes.
Okay,
all
so see that whole thing, I bawled the season finale of season 3 of The Chosen. As we're talking about, your screen starts doing crazy shit again. I literally cried my face off for like an hour. Like the whole thing was just blew me up.
Yes.
So anyways, yes, I was like, that is literally like enough of a crack in your non-belief for him to reach you. And he will find a way to show you what your personal special relationship is between the two of you, that is not supposed to be like anything else, that is not supposed to feel like somebody else's relationship or him in some other fashion. And I think that was you that said, oh my gosh, yes, like that's just the most beautiful thing.
Yes, that mustard, right before I had that experience when I was driving to work. I had gone the night before. Was at an Al-Anon meeting, and it's in a church that they rent space from. And on the wall, as I was going, was one of the verses about the mustard seed, and it was a hand with just that little mustard seed. So I always remembered that, and I think that was my mustard seed moment, because all you need, and the thing is that it's so tiny, but the love that floods in is I can't. There are no words to describe. And that season, the finale of season 3, when the walking on water scene, when when he grabs Simon out of the water,
Yes.
and Simon is holding on to him, and he's saying, "Please don't let go." Like, you have I'm sure I'm not the only one who's ever experienced this in their life, because when it came to with my son, and just really, I used to say that, please don't let go of him. Please don't let go of him. Please help save my son. And just to share, is that right before my son went into detox and rehab, this last time that he is now celebrating 10 months, he gave me permission. I got a phone call from him a week before he went into detox. He tried to take his own life. And he told me, and again, I got permission. The night before, he bought a gun and he put the gun to his mouth and he pulled the trigger and the entire gun locked.
I just got chills through my whole body. Holy shit.
And he sent a picture over to me through text and he pointed it out because I'm not familiar with guns. Guns scare me. But when he said that, my first response is that you're meant to be here. God needs you here.
Chills the whole body. Yep.
It was that moment, and I tell people all the time, there was not one single person on the face of this universe that can ever tell me that God isn't real. However a person sees or interprets God to be and how they bring God into their being doesn't matter. God is real. God saved my son. God saved me. Like that moment, and then going into church that day, and I'm not a religious person. I'm a very spiritual person, but I do love, and I bought all three The Chosen devotional books.
Oh, I love that you did that.
I want to support them as much as I can.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, all of
support
their
them.
stuff is funded through, like, it's not their own money. Like, it's all
No,
funded
it's
through nonprofit ways. So yeah.
Yep, the Come and See Foundation, and
Yes.
yeah.
The Come and
So
See Foundation. Yes. And they do have, like, for instance, Jonathan Rumi is promoting this like bracelet that I want so badly, but it's like so much money. It's like $3,000 or something. Like, it's something crazy, or $1,200, something just wild. And I really at first was like, okay, that seems kind of Joel Osteen-ish. I'm just gonna fucking throw it out there. Or anybody else that's like profiting, I feel like. But then in the same breath, I'm like, I know where all the money's going, so I don't even fucking care. It's like, if people are gonna pay it, because people are in the comments were saying, oh yeah, I got this, it's beautiful, I love it. If you're gonna pay it, that money's literally going to fund more of his work. So I just give a shit. I know that money's not going. I know that it's not going to those places, that it's gone in other aspects. Like, that it's just
correct.
So I don't really care. But
So yeah, I bought that. I bought
yeah.
I got gifted a mug, and I bought the 3 devotionals, and every month I will send like $10 to $20,
Yeah.
because if it can keep it free for others to be able to watch,
Yep.
if they can, translate it on 600 languages the way that they want to,
Which is
like,
what they're working on right now. Yep.
yep, to me, $10, $20 compounded by the millions and millions of lives that it's touching. I've never felt so strongly about something in my life.
Yeah. It's an amazing show. I can't shut up about it. I talk about it all the time. I mean, half of this episode has been about the fucking Chosen. So, at some point, I'm just throwing out there that the Chosen is gonna fucking hear our shit, and we're gonna like connect in some way, because I'm just a mouth about that show. I can't. I just can't. It came.
If I could hug
very special
Dallas
time too.
Jenkins,
What was that?
if I can hug Dallas Jenkins,
Oh, I know.
would.
He's amazing. So yeah, so everybody go watch the fucking Chosen. If you're feeling the resonance in your body, like, oh, maybe, oh, what's that? It's actually a fuck yes. Go do it. Go watch it. So anyways, we've been talking for almost an hour. So I just
Yes.
want to thank you for taking the time. I mean, we've never connected before, and this is the first time. So thank you, Jesus, literally, for connecting us and allowing you to come on and tell your story. Thank you for having the courage to tell us about seeing him when you've never told anyone that before. Like, obviously he put that on your heart to tell everyone. So this particular episode will be dropping, let's just see here. I guess it doesn't really matter because it'll be dropping, but we drop every Sunday. Let's put it that way. So every Sunday, there will be a new episode that drops. You can find us on Spotify. It is, again, the Jeshua Encounter Podcast. If you want to email me and come on this podcast to tell your own Jesus encounter, then you can at thejeshuapodcast@gmail.com. And you can search for us on Anchor as well under the Jeshua Encounter Podcast. So once again, I'm Tasha Renee. Thank you. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you for watching. spread the word, follow us, share Jesus in this way, get his message out and his love out through this podcast. Thanks, Jen. Anything else you want to say?
You've said it all. And
Okay.
just thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Just thank you.
fantastic. All right, you guys, we'll see you next Sunday.